In all the languages,
the order for this project is stated on the final agenda. We have 4 applications for Coastal Marshland Protection Act today. Southern LNG Company, LLC, Elba Island, Savannah River, Chatham County is the first one. The second one's the City of Savannah, reconstruction of a floating dock system, Savannah River, Chatham County. The third one is East River Street, LLC, construction of a public access boat dock, Savannah River, Chatham County. And the fourth is Cannons Point Preserve, LLC, construction of a public kayak canoe launching dock and an installation of a creek band stabilization project, St. Simon's Island, Lawrence Creek, Glenn County. Let the record note that Mr. Humphreys will be recusing himself from the vote. Alicia?
Yes, sir. Good morning. The first project this morning is Southern LNG Company. Project's located on Elba Island in Savannah. Applicant is proposing to improve an existing berth, dredge, and expand an existing road. The agent for the project is Mr. Antonio Sanchez.
David, if you just state your name when you get to the microphone, please.
I'm David Tyler with the Center for the Sustainable Coast. How much time do I have?
3 minutes.
That'll be real speed talk compression then. See what I can do to cover this in 3 minutes. I know that I'm going to really ask you to think outside the box on this one because this is beyond what kinds of factors this committee normally considers in issuing permits. But let me make it clear that if nothing else, maybe educate some people a little bit. That the latest studies on the use of natural gas, now that fracking is being used, have concluded that the burning of natural gas will do nothing to improve climate change and reduce carbon, or reduce the greenhouse gases, in part because the methane leaked from fracking has 30 times per ton the greenhouse gas effect of carbon, which would be burned by alternative fuels that natural gas would be replacing.
The City of Savannah Riverwalk at Savannah River Landing. The project's located at Savannah River, east of the Marriott Hotel. The proposed project is reconstruction of a public floating dock system. The agent for the project is Mr. Stuart Slott.
Thank you.
Forward back.
should the committee determine the standard project, the proposed project is in the public interest, department staff recommends the following standard and special conditions. 1, the floating docks will be constructed in 2 phases. Phase 1 will include a 200 by 11.5 concrete floating dock. Phase 2 will provide additional mooring space by adding 160 by 11.5 concrete floating dock. Permitting must supply staff with adequate occupancy records for review and approval prior to the beginning of the second phase.
Thank you, sure. First, I want to pass out these brochures about Cannons Point, if y'all would take one. And the other thing I would like to do right out of the gate is issue a correction page for one of our responses to the comment, particularly the comment to Mr. Holland. There was a word left out in the second page regarding whether or not the proposed kayak launch would cause erosion as the previous sunken dock did, and the word "not" was left out here. We are making application for a Coastal Marshland Protection Permit for living shoreline bank stabilization restoration project and a non-motorized boat launch. Well, we manage this property for protection of the extraordinary environmental assets, and then to a second extent for research, recreation, and education. Their importance. And then finally, we do have an upland component of the project. The upland component consists of a 42 by 30 foot section of the existing gravel shell drive that is there. That is where vehicles will drop off and pick up kayaks, canoes, etc. There is a 5 by 43 foot pervious access path that will connect to the 6 by 30 approach ramp, and there's 178 square foot impervious concrete pad that will access that dock walkway. And lastly, there is this parking area, which is 45 by 65, that is to the west of the Education Pavilion, and that will be a dual-use parking area. In summary, the total impacts for both the kayak and canoe dock launch and living shoreline demonstration bank stabilization will be 8,847 square feet, or 0.19 acres.
Mr. James Holland. And James, you signed up for extra time.
Okay. Good morning, Commissioner.
Morning.
Good morning, committee members. Good morning, Mr. Attorney. Nice seeing you again. As before, I know I have 6 minutes, and before this started, I asked the commissioner for 2 more minutes. And it's not directly related to the comments that I have here. And at that time, he rejected those 2 minutes, so now I'm asking again,
Mr. Holland, you did not ask me for 2 minutes, I want the record.
a couple of minutes.
Proceed.
Am I gonna get any extra time or not?
I've got to be consistent, Mr. Holland. I've been that way since for 4 years I've been commissioner. If you sign up, you get extra time, and so you got 6 minutes.
I'm gonna use up about 1 minute of my time because of public participation, okay? During this process for this project, I have learned that we have a flaw in our public participation process. For instance, if the public sends in comments and the applicant responds, and they sit on them for 55 days, and then send them back to you a day after you should have already had your comments back to CRD to put on that machine, you get rejected because you're late. You're 6 days. You need 6 days before. I received the comments back on the 4th of December, and at the minimum, to get them back to y'all, it would have had to have been on the 2nd or 3rd of December. Now, this is a flaw that must be fixed. This eliminates the public from the public participation process. Now, everybody that's supposed to have a copy of this has a copy, and I'm gonna try to read them. I generally never do this. I get screwed up every time I do it, so I'm gonna read them anyway. 1, marsh jurisdictional JD line is no longer valid at this site and needs a new JD line. According to the documents, the JD line for this site was drawn September 2012, unless that's been changed, and they're only good for about a year. I would like to request that if a new JD line comes out, that this area of marsh where is being mowed up by the creek bank, that area be given a 60 to 90 day growth period during the growing season. Read on my comments here why. Okay, number 2, stream and CMP marsh buffers. The applicant is confusing about buffers relates to others creating a plan for the CMPC 50 feet marsh buffer, and then talks about requesting a 25 feet stream buffer variance as required by the Environmental Protection Division, measured from the creek bank landward for 25 feet. The applicant should be required to elaborate more regarding intent, because it's very unclear as to the intent of the use of a 25 feet stream buffer variance measured in the manner described above. The creek bank has a marsh vegetation growing landward from the rim of the bank, whereas this buffer variance will be measured from the bank, landward. When number 3, the joint application for the Army Corps of Engineers permit, state of Georgia protection permit, revocable license, blah, blah, blah. Lawrence Creek, the applicant found that Lawrence Creek is not an active crabbing zone. That's not correct. Not even close. There isn't a creek in our code. If a crabber can get a boat in it to crab, it's crabbed. Let's face it, that's not correct. Number 4, same as number 3. Applicant found that there were no oyster or clam beds occurring near the project site or access channel. This is not correct either. See exhibit number 2, which is a photo of this area that shows that there is a small bed of oysters, and the substrate shows a lot of on page number 2, this submerged dock reflected the water flow and exacerbated the bank erosion for years. It has been removed, and as strongly we believe the dock will not cause the erosion. It took them 55 days to pick up on it. Okay? Why didn't CRD staff pick up on something like that? And the clam and the oyster business and the crabbing business in that creek. In my comments, I talked about the placement of the floating dock, and then the respondent replied, the project contractor advises that turbidity curtains would not be practical. Sheets 3 and 4 of the engineering drawings detail the erosion and sediment control plan. At this time, I would like the record be committed to exhibit number 4. Exhibit number 4 is an excerpt from Georgia Water Quality Control Statute where it relates to turbidity in state water. Will this, number 8, will this facility, if permitted, be allowed to be used for commercial interest in any way? For instance, will the canoe kayak outfitters be allowed to use this launch and dock area to bring their paying customers to launch their craft for own guided tours?
What is it?
You got through all 8 of them.
Pardon me?
You got through all 8 of your points. Are there any questions for Mr. Hollis from the committee? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Hollis.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Ms. Julian Smith.
Thanks. I'm Julian Smith. I live on Maxwell Avenue on the island, right next to a tidal marsh. I want to endorse Mr. Holland's comments about some problems with the application. I noticed for myself that although the square footage of impact to the creek bank, the marsh, the square footage of impact is given in terms of the amount of material that's going to be added. There is nothing about the cubic footage. Square footage can be an inch thick, a foot thick, or a yard thick. So I think the application would have been improved by having more specific information. I don't canoe, I don't kayak, I don't fish, I don't crab. I'm beyond the time when I did any of those things, growing up down in southern Louisiana. But I am very supportive of public access to a site that was once open to the public pretty much 24 hours a day throughout the year. I'm glad that the that this piece of land, this large piece of land, has been preserved, that it has been taken out of the potential of development, although the development of luxury homes along the water would have added greatly to the commercial activity on St. Simon's Island and to our tax base. But I'm glad that this has been preserved. And I'm going to take statements of earlier presenters at face value that the public access will be increased. The hours and days of access will be increased as more volunteers come forward, etc. I hope that is true. Thank you.
Any questions?
That I want to make is that the applicant, the Cannons Point Preserve LLC, does not actually own the marsh on which it proposes to construct a dock or a bank enhancement. The marsh belongs to the Sea Island Acquisitions Propco 2 LLC. That organization has made application to this body for other permits. It has not, however, made application to this body for this particular project. I think that is a gross oversight. This body, however, is apparently in the habit of granting permits for docks that on land that does not belong to the applicant. That's what happened in the Tolan dock. And it is also another project on that same coast of Sea Island that you all granted a permit to persons who did not own the land. Personally, I think all of the marshes should be public property. However, given the cavalier way in which this public body has been administering the marshes, I now doubt that that's a wise thing, and it's probably better for private people to own the marsh, as I do 12 acres, and look after it ourselves. However, in this instance, I think your process is grossly flawed, since the applicants are applying for a permit for something they do not own. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I will move to approve the standard and special conditions. Side comment after that motion. Mr. Holland is correct in terms of the public comment. I just encourage and make sure that we do allow full public comment and opportunity to provide input on these particular cases. But that aside, I do move to approve the standard and special conditions.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. That concludes our